When I say we're going to move something to cloud, everybody's like, yeah, I mean, cloud, right? It's been there for so long. Pretty much everything at this point is in cloud. So what's so special about silicon design? Now, actually, this is one of those areas which has not been moved to cloud.
Welcome to Technovation. I'm your host, Peter High. My guest today is Nishit Sahay. Nishit is the Chief Information Officer of Marvell Technology, a data infrastructure technology company that earns roughly $5.5 billion annually. Nishit has been in his role for a bit less than 2 years out of the more than 7.5 that he's been with the company. Across his tenure, he's laid out a digital foundation for the organization, leveraged data as a catalyst for growth, helped the company digest a series of acquisitions, also helped the company develop a nimble orientation that has it set to absorb continued growth ahead while developing a compelling value proposition associated with artificial intelligence. I look forward to hearing more about these topics and others through this conversation. Nishit, welcome to Technovation. It's great to speak with you today.
Thanks, Peter. Looking forward to the conversation.
I am as well. Well, why don't we begin with Marvell Technology's business, Nishit? Would you mind taking a moment and providing a bit more depth into the description of the business itself?
Sure. So Marvell is a leading semiconductor company, right? I mean, lately we're in news a lot. So now the question is, why are we in news so much? Now, we took a position of being a data infrastructure company. And what happened, of course, when you think about data, you think about data centers, you think about the automotive, carriers, all of that requires data. But now lately with AI, we are really come to being the top players in the AI infrastructure. So, playing alongside the big names that you've heard in the industry, Marvell is supposed to be the top 5 semiconductor companies, which is actually fueling this whole AI infrastructure.
Very exciting and remarkable accounts for some of the growth that I described before as well. Can you talk a bit about your role as Chief Information Officer, if you would? What's within your purview?
Yeah. So as a CIO, I actually have 3 or maybe 4 pillars that I have in the organization. One is your typical CIO role, right? You support infrastructure, network, business applications, all sorts of business applications. Supporting various business functions, engineering applications, and whatnot. So that is one, the typical CIO role. Then the other one is the data office. So Marvell has a big data-driven culture. So our decisions are pretty much data-driven. So we have a data office, which consists of all the elements of data office: data science, data analytics, data engineering, data governance. I'm responsible for the third pillar is AI. So I'm responsible for all the enterprise AI, implementations that we're going after in Marvell. We've been on this journey for a long time, and it's one of the exciting pillars that I actually spend a big amount of my time lately on. And the fourth, which is kind of goes hand in hand with all of this, is business process transformation. Many companies call it the digital office. We don't have any office name to it, but it's business process transformation. So basically, we look around inefficiencies in the company, employee experience, and whatnot, and we go after them and look at various ways technology can solve those.
And your team, does it reflect what you just described? You have a leader over each of the areas you just noted. Is it organized in a different way entirely?
So the IT side of it is fairly standard organization. That we have business partner model. We're very, like most IT groups, we are very customer oriented. So we have our leaders, which are organized along with the pillars that the company has. So we have a person who's organized or who's there to support everything engineering, then everything supply chain. So we have it organized that ways. We do have pillars for data office, for AI, but within the team itself, we have this matrix organization, because AI, for example, you can't just have one team do all the AI in the company. So if you're supporting finance, then AI is one of the tools that you want to bring in front of finance to solve their business needs. So that is a little bit of matrix within, but mostly the organization is aligned to the business goals that I defined.
Very interesting indeed. I mentioned at the outset that you've been in the process of developing what you refer to as a digital foundation. And I wonder if you could talk a bit more about what that entails.
Yeah. So now again, as an IT person, as a technology person, I wanted to get systems out for everything. Right? You do any function within the company, you should have a system which automates that for you. Now, earlier it was kind of a nice to have thing. I mean, you want to have an ERP system, you want to have your collaboration and communication systems, but pretty much beyond that, everything was optional, right? I mean, you can do things in Excel too. Now, uh, uh, at Marvell, we are a very lean company for the revenue that we are supporting, for the market size we are supporting, for the opportunity we are supporting. So we were always very tech oriented. So we wanted to have automation in every place that we can do automation. So we were ahead on this journey to have platforms and processes which are fairly automated, and can run the business process faster. Now, there are certain things that still blind spots that many companies, especially old companies like ours, have, right? Where your focus a little bit more outcome based. You're more like, let's give out systems for HR, let's give out systems for engineers, dev platforms and whatnot. And we stitch through on the back end. Now, with AI especially coming into the mix, you want to have very strong foundation. That is one thing. Second thing is, with all these technology advancements and the expectations that you have, the workload size improving, you want to have good resiliency. So we are investing, and of course, one key thing that I want to talk, security. I mean, we are one of those target companies with heavy IPs. We are always a target. So looking at these three layers, which are like more back-endish layers where the architecture is in a perfect shape, you have the end-to-end mapping done well, all the technology that we have in the company integrates better. Below that is the right infrastructure, a very resilient infrastructure. Something as simple as having a perfect network environment. You have the perfect network environment to move the data across the company. And all of this is properly secured with our security layer. Now, these are like infrastructural in nature. Now, the question is, when you stack up the applications on top of it, how is the data moving? And that is also one of the layers with the data office that I talked about that we are working through is, do we have the right governance in place? Do we have the right controls in place? Do we have right compliance in place? So that is also what I call a very foundational work. Now, the reason I call it foundational is because normally people, I mean, if you're a user of a system, you don't see it. If I do my job right, this is pretty transparent to you. But at the back end, we are stitching through multiple things to get it together. And what we are working towards is a very clean environment.
Great overview. Thank you for that. You mentioned earlier your data office, and I wanted to delve a little bit more into that. You've noted to me in past conversations the methods you're using to leverage data as a catalyst for growth. Can you talk a bit about the methods that you're using in order to do so?
Sure. So I'll stitch two things. I mentioned that Marvell is a very data-driven company. So we don't have subjective conversations. It's always informed. You come in with your information, somebody else comes in with their information, and you then make a decision based on that. So that has always been the culture of the company. Now, what we initially did was to automate that culture, right? We brought in analytics, we brought in information in hands of decision makers so they can quickly make decisions, informed decisions on the right data. So that was the first layer that we draw, and we call it the data-driven transformation journey. We have good analytics tools. We went through a supply chain crisis in 21, 22, then an inventory crisis in 22, and then 23, then again a demand crisis, with the AI later part of it. We navigated very well due to our data infrastructure. Now, again, this was very outcome driven. This was all about making the business function well. Now that we are implementing AI on top of everything, we have to have the proper governance in place. So we have done a decent job on what you might call the enterprise data, your ERP, your Salesforce, your Workday, financial system data. But when it comes to the unstructured data, right, your IPs, your technical documentation, they're all pretty much living in their isolated islands with not a lot of reason for us to bring into the center place. But the AI, you want to bring it to the main place so that now you can feed in that technology and you get more value out of it. So now we have to put governance in places which are a little hard to do. So we're implementing a data mesh architecture where you can put the governance at rest. So before you actually bring that in to derive information out of that data, you know that you're compliant, you're secure, it's clean. You have 50 versions of tech specs to pick from. Which one are you going to pick? So that is the journey that we are on the data side of it.
Again, a great overview and indicative of the creative thought process you and the team are undergoing from that perspective. Yours is an organization that has grown remarkably through the course of your tenure. Part of it through major acquisitions, most recently the Inphi acquisition, $10 billion acquisition that closed in 2021, which expanded the company's reach in data centers and 5G network infrastructure, for example, and then growth beyond that as well. And I wonder, first of all, how you and the team remain ahead of that growth. The company you are today is very different than the one you joined. And likewise, with the continued projected growth, just in a couple, 2 or 3 years, it will be a very different company again. Talk a bit about how you remain cognizant of this and ahead of the growth so that you can, in fact, effectively digest all that growth accordingly.
So, Peter, to start with, the whole reason I joined Marvell was because I know it's going to be a dynamic company. It's a company which has been here for a long time. When Matt joined as CEO, Matt came from Maxim. I was working at Maxim. It was very clear that Matt is going to bring transformation to the company. The key thing was to define what this company is, right? So if you even go 7 years ago, we took the path of being a data infrastructure company. And we did wherever the market needs are. That's what we focused on. So we're big in automotive. I mean, beyond AI itself, we're big in automotive. We are big in carrier. Everything and anything which needs data. Now the question was, you have these, Marvell being a storage company initially. That was what this company was found for. What are the different pieces that are missing? And that's what we filled through the acquisitions. Now that is from the strategy perspective. Now, the key thing is, a lot of companies make acquisitions. Now you have to make it work. And there are a couple of elements to it, right? You have to have the right strategy. So Matt and his staff has always had a great strategy when it comes to the product, very market-focused, long-term strategy. The second is cultural. So when you bring in a company, can you integrate that company culturally? And Marvell has done a phenomenal job. And the third is where I come in. Your systems and processes have to just work. And what we had perfected over 5 major acquisitions that we did was how quickly you can do it, how cleanly you can do it, and when you come in, how do you support the top 2 layers that I talked about? So the system side of it and the process side is to be completely seamless for everybody who's working post acquisition within the company. Speed was important. So, sometimes people would like, why do you need to integrate this fast? When I talk about speed, Inphi was integrated. And when I say integrated, their supply chain, their CRM, their portals, all of this was integrated within 2 months of the deal close. Now, that with 99.6% plus accuracy in data. So it's not like, you can always shove in data in your system and integrate, right? But we maintain the quality of our systems after integration. At the same time, we pretty much kept most of the automation that the incoming company comes with. So it's not like, this is the system, you use it, this is all you have, right? And that required quite a bit of planning, and that required quite a bit of collaboration. So this is where the culture of the company came into the mix. There's not just IT coming in and solving this integration problems. It's actually as a sight to behold, right? The whole company comes together and decides, okay, this is how we're going to do our part and make this a success. Once we've decided the goalpost that, okay, March or April is when we be integrated as one system or process, the whole company came together and make it happen.
Fascinating. Remarkable what you've been able to accomplish from that perspective. And the pathway to making an acquisition accretive is no doubt enhanced by the degree to which you can successfully integrate those organizations as you've described. Another topic that you and I talked about that your team has been integrally involved in has been helping move silicon design to the cloud. And I wonder if you could talk a bit about that and the advantages of doing so. Of course, the methods that you and the team have used as well.
Yeah. To start with, when I say we're going to move something to cloud, everybody's like, yeah, cloud, right? It's been there for so long. Pretty much everything at this point is in cloud. So what's so special about silicon design? Now, actually, this is one of those areas which has not been moved to cloud. Pretty much every semiconductor company does it on-prem. And the reason is, when you do silicon design, you have a lot of legacy flows, which the data flow is not meant for how the cloud should be, right? You can't have a storage a mile away from your server because you're moving data in and out very fast. So architecturally, the cloud was not meant for silicon design type of workloads. Now, what we did was we actually partnered with the hyperscalers, and we went in and we said, okay, your architecture doesn't work for us, but there is value, and I'll come to the value part. And to their, we recently announced our partnership with AWS, right? To their credit, they re-architected their solution to make it work for cloud. Now comes the value part. Why cloud, right? So one is the obvious one. You don't want to have data centers and the usual stuff that CIOs prefer cloud over on-prem. But the other piece is what you can do on-prem versus what you can do cloud in terms of basic infrastructure. Now, silicon design is a very complex workload. Think about the size of logic that we deal with. We're talking about 2 nanometers. I mean, human mind cannot perceive beyond a certain dimension. When I was doing EE, I was told a long time ago, I was told like 100 nanometers where physics wouldn't allow you to go any further down. And we are at 2 nanometers. So when you're designing such complex, dense circuits, you have to have your workloads, your tools that run those workloads. They're extremely complicated to run. So we have these huge high performance servers, which are meant for these tools to work on a data center. Now think about how a data center is, right? Now it's like series of these servers running through. Now, the way silicon design is done now is everything runs on a CPU. Whether it's a light workload, very dedicated workload, whether it's a very logical workload, right? A lot of math involved, or it's a simulation. Everything just runs on a CPU. Now, what made AI happen? This GPU made AI happen, right? So when there are certain type of workloads which are meant for GPUs, there are certain type of workloads which doesn't need that kind of performance, which requires a dedicated or very customized type of setup for them. So this is what you call customizable compute. You can just take a workload and you can say, okay, this one I'm going to run on a CPU because it requires a lot of math, very high performance math, and CPUs are perfect for that. But there are workloads which are simulation in nature. So you want to run it on GPU. I mean, you can literally take 4 weeks workload and make it a 2-day workload, or maybe a few hours workload if you run it right on GPU, right? This is what GPUs are for. But there are some places where you want to save on power, because both GPUs are tremendously power hungry systems. CPUs are fairly, and high performance CPUs are fairly power hungry systems. But then you have ARM-based systems, which are very easy on performance, very easy on power, very good on performance for certain workloads. So you can take your whole flow and say, okay, this job goes to ARM, this job goes to CPU, this job goes to GPU, and you can have the most optimized workflow. Now, this is something that you don't want to do on-prem. Can you imagine maintaining that kind of ecosystem yourself? I mean, this is not the business that I'm in, right? Now, that is something you can do in cloud. So the first big benefit of cloud that we saw and that we are aiming towards is this customizable compute. We are bringing all the EDA partners with us, because it's not just us talking to AWS or the hyperscalers who make it happen. They have to adjust their technology to work with customizable compute. The second bit is all these new tools that our engineers are going to get. So cloud, talking about AWS platform, you get a lot of microservices. Now we can activate those on-prem too, but again, you can imagine the headache that you had to do and the time it consumes. Again, you want to get your services fast to your engineers. So cloud gives you that new ecosystem. And the third, back to AI. Pretty much all AI exists in cloud, right? There are very few companies, hopefully, not onesie, twosie, or even the companies who are actually doing on-prem are mostly the companies who have built GPUs. So beyond that, pretty much everybody is using cloud. All the solutions are in cloud. So if you have to enable all these AI technology for engineers, cloud is the right place. So that's why we want to move our design engineers to cloud. We have started that full pace. We had announced this big partnership with AWS, and that's the journey we are on. Again, there are a lot of companies. So again, in silicon design, it's not like cloud didn't exist, but most people use it for burst capacity. So you still have your data center as a primary workload driver. But if you need more, you just go to cloud. So that's the first thing. So we're not taking that approach. We are actually moving our entire flow to cloud. So that is very unique. The second thing is Marvell being, the kind of company we are in 2 nanometers, 3 nanometers, highest end nodes. Our workloads are way more complex than the traditional workloads that other semiconductor companies have. So we are actually driving the cloud limits or cloud performance to its limits. So they are working very closely with us to make sure that the architecture is, can support us. And the second thing is ours is not like, okay, if you need excess capacity, we'll go there. We're actually moving the whole thing to cloud.
Very, very interesting. I appreciate you sharing those perspectives. Makes a lot of sense as you describe the rationale and the sort of steps that you've undertaken in order to bring that to life. I wanted to talk a bit about artificial intelligence, which we've kind of mentioned at the edge of the conversation so far. As you noted at the outset, your responsibilities include the internal use of artificial intelligence writ large. And I know from, again, our past conversations that there are 4 areas that you're focused on relative to AI. You noted those as moving the needle on product development, overall company efficiency, change management, and long-term investments. And I wonder if you could take a moment and describe a little bit each of those just to provide a bit of background and color to what each is what's intended by each.
Sure. Yeah. So we've been on this AI journey for almost 2 years now. That is, and before that we were doing data science stuff, which is not generative AI in nature. But then the question was, where do we invest? Where do we make our big bets? Right? You can always buy, off-the-shelf AI tool and deploy for the company. The question is, does it add value to the company? And that is when we came up with this 4-pillar approach. So semiconductor projects or new product development takes a tremendous amount of time. Like I mentioned, it's very complex flow with a lot of engineering, a lot of science behind it, and a lot of use for AI within it. So the first pillar that we picked, or the main pillar that we picked where we want to make big dents, is to improve our product development. Now, I'm using the word improve and not shorten the life cycle, because shorten is obvious, right? I mean, you can take efficiency or make things more efficient. And it's not just AI. You can do multiple different things to make your flows efficient. And that is great. If you can shorten your time to market, that is perfect. But at the same time, we can use AI to improve our feature sets in the product. So within the product development itself, we're looking at various vectors on where we can actually bring AI to do big things. Now, generative AI was a catalyst, but when we actually went into the flow, we realized a lot of places traditional machine learning can actually be leveraged. To make things better. So that is one pillar. Again, think about it. If we make a dent there, the kind of products we build, they're very expensive, high-end, take a long time to build type products. And if we can make it faster and we can make our product features better, then company-wise, the kind of company we are in, or the kind of business we are in, that will be a huge impact to the market and to Marvell. So that is our primary focus. But at the same time, we want to make sure that the whole company get the efficiency out of this. Now, so the idea here is, while we are focusing on product development, let's also focus on efficiency, right? The whole company's efficiency. And there you can look at the corporate-wide efficiency, what are things that take time for people? One common thing for us is searching information. So we gave out a system for people where they can quickly search for information within the company, like a Google platform or ChatGPT for the company itself. Then we are going into each business functions and working with the business process owners to see how we can reimagine their business functions with AI. And there are quite a few cases that we actually went in and said, okay, instead of doing the process this way, let's do the process in a different way and plug in these technologies to enable that process. So that is basically going after not just overall employee efficiency, but business process efficiency, which ultimately brings efficiency to the functions, right? So that's the second pillar. So that's very ROI based. That is, you look at the time mapping and you can do those things, which are very traditional type approaches on making your things more efficient. Now, you can build great tools. You can deploy great tools. Now, AI even now is an optional tool for you to use because we're not building autonomous tools, right? It's not like, and by the way, at this point, AI tools are not ready to be autonomous. It's an assistive technology. I'm an engineer. I'm doing certain things. I'm going to give, so IT will, or my team will give all these tools, which will make them faster, or they might make them more efficient. But they are the masters, right? They are the one using these assistants, digital assistants that we're giving out to them. Now, when you do that, it's again a very optional thing for them to use. Now, we want to encourage people to use it. So that's why the change management pillar came into the being. And it goes from like people having basic awareness of the technologies that's been coming out, at the same time, knowing how to use it. These tools are as good as you use them to be, right? I mean, think of something as simple as Copilot. But yeah, you can do basic chat with it. But then the more you learn how to prompt that tool to ask the right level of questions, the more useful these tools are. So there's a lot of training involved, a lot of awareness involved. We're doing a lot of these, what we call AI days, where we're actually going into different sites and we're bringing people together. We're building this team of AI champions who are belonging to business functions, belonging to these sites, who make sure that people are aware of what's happening and there's the right amount of usage in there. And if there is an idea coming in, then it can come to my, our core group, so we can work on it, all the good ideas. So that is the change management side of it. Again, the one thing to consider here is these technologies are not like your typical usual systems that you used to have, right? Where you actually ask a specific question and you always get a specific answer. In AI tools, based on how you ask a question, your answer could be completely different. So it's a very different type of technology. It requires a rewiring of a lot of people's thought process on how to use a system. That's the third pillar. The final is, or the fourth pillar is about, okay, what do we do long term, right? All of us are building technologies, buying solutions, deploying them, training them. That's like, every month, every week, we actually come up with a plan, we refine the plan. That's very short term in nature, right? Long term, what do we invest in? And we talked about that a little bit. The first one is data, because the key thing that fuels this AI is your own company's knowledge, your own company's data, your own company's information. To have a right data platform, which can be leveraged by these AI solutions, was kind of paramount for us. And that's where we set up the data office, brought in data governance team, formalized the data science team, brought in some technologies to actually create a data mesh environment that I talked about. So that's an ongoing thing. Have the right data controls. Think of it, your data might be fully secure, access controlled in their own islands. Once you bring that into the AI ecosystem, then it's very hard to control the access of data, to understand what the quality of that data is. So we're building that infrastructure team to support it. Awareness, building a data stewards team to make sure that our business understands the importance of data. We're building relationship with a lot of solution providers as well as service providers, because this is not something that we want to do ourselves. We actually want to build an ecosystem around us who can work with us to either build solutions or support solutions or deploy new tools for Marvell. So we're investing with some set of companies where we either bring them in to work with us, or we actually engage with them on a regular basis to understand where they're going. And the third is we are also engaging with universities. That's where a lot of research has been happening. And we want to make sure that we are aware of those research. We are getting ourselves ready for all of that. And so that's why the university engagement. And we have chosen 2 or 3 universities that we can engage more intimately with.
And I hear echoes in what you've described in something else you've mentioned to me, which is the notion of democratizing artificial intelligence to a greater degree. I can hear the rationale and even some of the methods that you're using in order to do so. Am I drawing the right connection there?
Oh yeah, no, totally. Actually, that's a good point. So one of the things that we worked on very early was, how do we get our Marvell's engineering strength to play, right? So there too, one is we're a company of engineers, and we build machine learning products. So we have a lot of that, knowledge sitting with thousands of people here, right? So we don't want to have these 10 sort of people are the only ones responsible for building any AI solution in the company. So we actually wanted to encourage our engineers to work with us on building these systems. Now, the problem with that is then you'll have proliferation of systems. You'll have crazy amount of systems, right? So what we did was we built an AI development platform, which is supported by my team, which is governed by my team. The right data is getting in, all the rest of it, legal, compliance, security, all of it, architecture. And we give them this access and training so that they can come in and build their own applications. So at this point, in fact, so we have around 40 plus applications which are live. And I would say 60% of it is built outside IT. It's built by these engineers. So that is one. The second thing is democratizing the thought process on AI too. So we are not domain experts. We are technology folks within IT, right? We want to make sure that the knowledge on how the ideas on how AI can be leveraged in a particular business function can come from the domain experts. They're the ones who can really understand how the depth of their function works. So that is the other approach that we had with AI champions coming in for various business functions, that they're representing it and they're bringing the ideas to the table too. So both building as well as idea generation.
That's exciting to hear about how pervasive this has become. I really appreciate you sharing each of those, Nishit. I wanted to also ask you, more generally speaking, as you look ahead, any other trends that particularly excite you that are making their way onto your roadmap?
Yeah, beyond AI. So
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny, AI just started. So I think one thing that excites me the most is quantum computing. And the way I see it is, you had CPUs and then you had GPUs doing something very different. And then there is a whole set of problem statements that neither GPUs or CPUs are meant to solve. And there's a technology which seems pretty promising, which is actually coming to fruition lately. Now, there are various different thought process on the practicality of it and how fast this will be coming to the market as a enterprise solution. But keeping that aside, that is one thing that excites me the most and sometimes scares me the most, by the way. I mean, think about it. All the security solution that you put in mind is meant to deflect a processing speed of a GPU or a CPU. Quantum computer is a very different realm altogether. So we have to reimagine quite a few things, the way we do things, especially to protect our environment with the quantum computing coming in. And the other question is, how do we integrate that to our infrastructure eventually, and what kind of business problems it can solve, right? Being a CIO, that is the first question that comes to my mind. So yeah, technology excites me. I've been waiting for this to come to life for a long time. And the possibilities are fairly limitless with that. And of course, the risks are fairly limitless too.
There are a lot of similarities in terms of AI and quantum, in as much as the more advanced versions of these was expected to be many decades out. And it seems like both of them are getting pulled forward so dramatically, leading to a lot of excitement. But as you point out, also a necessity to think more today about the risks that may appear in the not too distant future as well. I appreciate you sharing some perspectives there. And Nishit, thank you so much, more generally speaking, for talking a bit more about your tenure at Marvell, your tenure as Chief Information Officer, the remarkable progress that you and the team have made with an organization that's been growing so dramatically, as well as a number of trends, perhaps primary among those centered around data and artificial intelligence, that you're helping ensure the organization is taking full advantage of. It's been a great conversation.
See you, Peter.